The desperate call. The message arrived at Earth's Deep Space Array on a Tuesday. Commander Jackson Wee stood frozen as the translation software decoded the alien transmission. Around him, the monitoring station hummed with activity, but all he could focus on was the unmistakable desperation in the signal. "This is the 7th time we've received it," said Lieutenant Sophia Diaz, her eyes fixed on the scrolling data. "Same pattern, same frequency. It's definitely directed at us." We nodded slowly. "And you're sure about the translation?" "As sure as we can be, sir." "The message is simple but clear. Help us. We're dying." Within hours, Earth's Unified Space Command convened an emergency session. Representatives from all major nations gathered virtually as Admiral Elena Volkov presented the findings. The signal originates from the Cygnus constellation, approximately 52 light-years away, she explained, projecting a star map onto the main screen. "We've identified it as coming from a star system we've been monitoring for potential life. Now we have confirmation, and they're in trouble." "What kind of trouble requires them to ask us for help?" asked the Chinese representative. "If they can send signals across 52 light-years, their technology must far exceed our own." Admiral Volkov nodded. "That's what makes this so unusual. Whatever threat they're facing must be catastrophic if they're reaching out to us." The debate raged for hours. Some argued caution. This could be a trap, a way to lure Earth's limited space resources into an ambush. Others saw a moral obligation to respond, regardless of risk. In the observation gallery, Captain Ilara Chen watched silently, her mind racing with possibilities. At 42, Chen had commanded the Quantum Horizon for only 8 months. Her ship was Earth's most advanced vessel, equipped with experimental faster-than-light drive technology that had never been tested beyond our solar system. When the meeting adjourned without resolution, she wasn't surprised to receive a summons to Admiral Volkov's office. "You've been following the situation?" Volkov asked, not looking up from her terminal. "Yes, Admiral." "And?" Chen straightened. "The Horizon was built for this. First contact, extended missions, unknown conditions. My crew is ready." Volkov finally looked up, her steel-gray eyes evaluating Chen. "It would be a one-way trip, potentially. Even with your FTL drive, the return journey isn't guaranteed." "We all volunteered knowing the risks," Chen replied simply. 3 days later, final preparations were underway. Additional information had been extracted from the alien signal. They called themselves the Vox Collective, a civilization spanning multiple planets around their star. The threat remained unspecified, but subsequent messages conveyed increasing urgency. The Quantum Horizon, sleek and imposing in Earth's orbit, took on the final supplies. Chen's crew of 28 represented Earth's finest: scientists, engineers, tactical specialists, and first contact experts. Dr. Ndidi Okafor, the ship's xenolinguist, had been working around the clock to refine their understanding of the Vox language. "Captain," she reported as Chen made her final inspection, "I've identified patterns in their communication that suggest a hive mind structure. Individual thought combined with collective decision-making. Fascinating, really." "Fascinating won't matter if we can't help them," Chen replied, running her hand along the navigation console. "How confident are you that we can communicate effectively?" "Based on their signals, reasonably confident. They seem highly adaptable." Launch day arrived with little fanfare. Earth had been told only that the Quantum Horizon was embarking on a deep space test mission. The truth, that humanity was answering its first alien distress call, remained classified. As the ship broke orbit, Chief Engineer Marcus Wong monitored the FTL drive. "Drive systems nominal, Captain. We can initiate jump sequence when ready." Chen took a deep breath. "All stations, secure for FTL. Initiating in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to bend around them. Stars stretched into lines, then vanished entirely as the Quantum Horizon entered subspace. The journey had begun. For 23 shipboard days, they traveled deeper into space than any humans before them. The FTL drive performed beyond expectations, bending theoretical physics in ways that would revolutionize space travel if they returned to share the data. Approaching destination coordinates, announced Navigator Sato. Preparing to exit FTL. The view screen shifted from the swirling chaos of subspace to normal space. Before them hung a star similar to Earth's sun, surrounded by 7 planets. And something else, enormous structures orbiting the 4th planet, clearly artificial. Life signs, Chen asked, keeping her voice steady despite the historic moment. Millions, Captain, replied Science Officer Lakshmi Patil. The 4th planet is heavily populated, but I'm also detecting anomalies. Energy fluctuations unlike anything in our database. Before Chen could respond, Communications Officer Rodriguez straightened. Captain, we're being hailed. Multiple frequencies, extremely powerful signal. Chen nodded. On screen. The view screen shimmered, and an image appeared that none of them had been prepared for. The being, if it could be called that, resembled a luminous cloud with multiple tendrils of light extending in all directions. When it spoke, the sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, a harmonious blend of tones that the ship's computers struggled to translate. Earth vessel, the translation finally rendered. You have come. We had nearly abandoned hope. Chen stepped forward. I am Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth ship Quantum Horizon. We received your distress signal and have come to offer assistance. The light being pulsed brighter. I am Harmony of Voices, speaker for the Vox Collective. Your journey must have been difficult with your level of technology. We are surprised you managed to reach us. There was an unmistakable note of condescension in the translation, but Chen ignored it. Our technology served its purpose. Please explain the nature of your emergency. The image shifted to show the system's outermost planets. Where Chen expected to see worlds, she instead saw fragments, planets literally being torn apart. They came 6 cycles ago, Harmony of Voices explained. We do not know what they are, only that they consume everything. Energy, matter, even light itself. Our defenses fail against them. Our weapons pass through them without effect. They have destroyed 3 of our worlds already. These entities, Chen asked, do they communicate? Have you attempted contact? A sound like bitter laughter translated through the speakers. We have existed as a spacefaring civilization for 12,000 of your years, Captain. We have encountered and communicated with 47 different species. These entities do not communicate. They only consume. The briefing continued for hours. The Vox Collective had indeed reached out to Earth as a last resort. Their sophisticated technology, their energy weapons, their matter phase disruptors, all had failed against the approaching threat. Now, with their remaining worlds evacuated to the central planet, they faced extinction. Why us? Chen finally asked the question that had troubled her since receiving the mission. With your technology, surely there are other civilizations more advanced than Earth who could help. Harmony of Voices pulsed dimly, the equivalent of lowering its gaze. The others refused. Some are too distant. Some fear bringing the attention of these entities to their own worlds. Some, the light flickered. Some believe our destruction would be advantageous for their expansion. And what made you think humans would help when others wouldn't? We have observed your species for centuries. You are young, impulsive, often irrational, but you possess one quality in abundance that many older civilizations have lost: compassion in the face of long odds. You fight hardest when victory seems impossible. Chen absorbed this assessment in silence. Then, show us everything you know about these entities. My crew will need full access to your data if we're to have any chance of helping. As the Quantum Horizon docked with the Vox orbital station, Chen couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. Humanity, barely a spacefaring civilization by galactic standards, had been called upon to save a species thousands of years more advanced, not because they were powerful, but because they were stubborn, because they still believed in impossible victories. "Captain," Dr. Okafor said quietly, studying the data streaming into their systems, "the entities will reach this planet in approximately 72 hours. Chen nodded grimly. "Then we better work fast." The human solution. The Vox Central Command Center dwarfed anything humanity had built. Sweeping crystalline structures housed quantum computers that could process information at speeds that made Earth's most advanced systems look primitive. Captain Chen stood amid a delegation of Vox leaders, holographic displays showing the approaching entities, void-like tiers in the fabric of space that defied conventional physics. "They are 3 planetary orbits away," said Harmony of Voices, the light patterns of its form pulsing anxiously. "Our remaining evacuation ships can save perhaps 30% of our population." Chen studied the displays, her mind racing. Around her, her crew had integrated with Vox specialists, exchanging information at a frantic pace. Engineers Wang and Patel had been granted access to Vox technology, while Tactical Officer Reyes analyzed the failures of previous defense attempts. "These void entities," Chen asked, "they consume energy in all forms?" "Yes," confirmed a Vox scientist named Resonant Thought. "They absorb electromagnetic radiation, thermal energy, even gravitational forces. That is why our weapons fail. Energy-based attacks only strengthen them." Dr. Okafor, who had been quietly observing Vox communication patterns, suddenly straightened. "Captain, I've been thinking. If they consume energy, what happens if they're overloaded?" The Vox leaders pulsed with dismissal. "We have tried this," Harmony of Voices explained. "We channeled the power of an entire star through our planetary defense network. The entities merely grew larger." "But that was controlled energy," Chen said slowly, the beginnings of an idea forming. "What about chaotic, unpredictable energy patterns?" Wang caught her meaning first. "The FTL drive," he said. "Its subspace field creates energy fluctuations that aren't stable in normal space." "Precisely what we've been trying to eliminate from the design." Chen nodded. "But what if those fluctuations are exactly what we need?" For the next 48 hours, humans and Vox worked side by side. The plan that emerged was audacious, possibly suicidal. The Quantum Horizon's FTL drive would be modified, not to create stable subspace for travel, but to generate massive chaotic energy distortions. The ship would fly directly into the cluster of void entities, initiate the modified drive, and essentially create a localized energy storm unlike anything the entities had encountered before. "It's a theoretical possibility," Engineer Wang explained to the skeptical Vox Council. "These entities have adapted to consume orderly energy patterns. The FTL distortions are fundamentally different. They exist partially in subspace, partially in normal space. They might disrupt the entity's ability to maintain cohesion." "Your ship cannot possibly survive such a mission," Resonant Thought observed. "The distortions would tear apart your vessel." "We're aware of the risks," Chen replied calmly. Harmony of Voices pulsed with confusion. "You would sacrifice yourselves for a species you have just met." Chen looked around at her crew, saw the determination in their faces. "We came here to help. This is how we can help." As the void entities approached the final defensive perimeter, preparations accelerated. The Quantum Horizon's drive had been extensively modified under Wang's direction, using both human ingenuity and Vox technology. The plan called for the ship to approach the entities, initiate the modified drive, and for the crew to evacuate in specially shielded pods before the distortion reached critical levels. 6 hours before the entities would reach the inhabited world, Chen gathered her crew for final briefing. "Participation in this mission remains voluntary," she stated firmly. "Anyone who wishes to remain with the Vox evacuation ships may do so without judgment." Not a single crew member moved. "Very well," Chen nodded, pride evident in her expression. "To your stations. History is watching." The Quantum Horizon departed the Vox station amid a solemn ceremony. The luminous beings lined the docking bays, their light patterns subdued in what Dr. Okafor explained was a gesture of profound respect. As they approached the swarm of void entities, Chen could feel the tension on the bridge. These impossible tiers in reality had destroyed entire worlds, rendered advanced technology useless, and now 28 humans in a single ship were challenging them with a theoretical solution. "Drive modifications holding stable," reported Wang from engineering. "We're ready when you are, Captain." Chen took a deep breath. "Navigation. Take us into the center of the largest concentration. Tactical, full shields. Communications, maintain link with the Vox command until the last possible moment." The ship accelerated toward the darkness. On the view screen, stars disappeared as they neared the entities, light itself being consumed. Warning alarms blared as the ship's sensors detected reality distorting around them. "We're in optimal position," Navigator Sato announced, voice steady despite the circumstances. Chen nodded. "Begin evacuation sequence. All personnel to escape pods." "Captain," Wang called from engineering, "the drive modifications require manual stabilization during the initial phase. Someone needs to remain aboard for approximately 2 minutes after activation." The bridge fell silent. Before anyone could volunteer, Chen stood. "I'll do it. The rest of you, evacuate now." "That's an order." Protests erupted, but Chen silenced them with a raised hand. 27 pods have a much better chance of being recovered than 28. Go." As her crew reluctantly departed, Chen made her way to engineering. The modified FTL drive hummed with unknown energies, crystals provided by the Vox glowing with unearthly light. "Final evacuation complete, Captain," the computer announced. "All pods launched and clear." Chen placed her hands on the drive controls. "Computer, initiate modified FTL sequence on my mark." "Mark." The drive spun up, energy patterns fluctuating wildly. Through the viewport, Chen could see the void entities seemingly responding, gathering closer to the ship, drawn by the emerging energy. "Come and get it," she whispered. The countdown timer showed 90 seconds until she needed to reach her own escape pod. The ship shuddered violently as reality itself began to warp around the drive. Alarms blared as structural integrity warnings flashed across every screen. 70 seconds. The void entities were now surrounding the ship completely, darkness pressing against the viewports. 50 seconds. The first hull breach occurred, atmosphere venting into space. Emergency force fields activated, barely holding. 30 seconds. Shen began making her way to the escape pod, the ship disintegrating around her. 20 seconds. A massive structural collapse blocked her path to the pod bay. 10 seconds. Chen realized she wouldn't make it. Instead, she returned to the engineering console, making a final adjustment to maximize the drive's effect. The Quantum Horizon's modified FTL drive reached critical threshold. For a moment, it seemed as though a new star had been born in space, a brilliant point of light that expanded outward in patterns that defied comprehension. The light wasn't just visible. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, creating energy patterns that rippled through subspace and normal space alike. The void entities, drawn to the energy, surrounded the phenomenon. But instead of absorbing it as they had all other energy sources, they began to destabilize. The chaotic, unpredictable nature of the distortion field disrupted whatever force allowed them to maintain cohesion. From the safety of the evacuation pods, the Horizon's crew watched in awe as the entities began to collapse in on themselves, the tiers in space-time closing one by one. And at the center of it all, the Quantum Horizon itself was torn apart. Atoms scattered across dimensions. 3 days later, Wang stood before the Vox Council, representing the surviving crew. The entities had been destroyed completely, their nature still largely a mystery, but their threat eliminated. "We cannot comprehend your sacrifice," Harmony of Voices stated, its light patterns conveying deep emotion. "For 12,000 years, we considered humanity a primitive species, barely worth monitoring. We reached out to you only when all other options were exhausted. Wong nodded. Captain Chen would say that's exactly when humans perform best. We have much to learn from your kind, the Vox leader acknowledged. You solved with inspiration what we could not solve with millennia of accumulated knowledge. In the following weeks, as arrangements were made to return the Horizon's crew to Earth, the Vox Collective made an unprecedented offer. An alliance with humanity, including technology exchange and protection. Not as patrons to a primitive species, but as equals who had proven their worth in the most fundamental way possible. When asked by Harmony of Voices why humanity would risk everything for strangers, Dr. Okafor had smiled. Because someday we might be the ones sending a desperate message into the dark, and we hope someone answers. 1 year later, the first Vox delegation arrived at Earth, bearing gifts and technology beyond human imagination. But their greatest gift was the story they told, of how a single human ship had faced the void that threatened to consume a civilization thousands of years more advanced than their own, and through human ingenuity and sacrifice, had prevailed. In the decades that followed, as humanity expanded to the stars with Vox assistance, they became known throughout the galaxy not for their technology or their military might, but for their unique approach to impossible problems. New species would sometimes look down on humans for their comparative youth, until the Vox would quietly share the story of the quantum horizon, and how when the stars themselves begged for help, it was humans who answered.